You're watching NBC5 Today at 4:30.
Good morning. We start with breaking developments on Ebola. This morning, we know a second Dallas healthcare worker has tested positive for Ebola.
The news came into NBC5 from the Texas State Department of Health about 45 minutes ago. We know the person was among the team that cared for Thomas Eric Duncan, the first Ebola patient in Dallas who died a week ago today. We know the second healthcare worker is an employee at Texas Health Presbyterian where Duncan was treated. So far, the state nor the hospital will release the name of this second person, of course. We do know that the worker went into immediate isolation after reporting a fever yesterday.
We know the healthcare worker has been watching for symptoms for weeks.
So let's get over to the breaking big board. Eric King is watching this closely this morning. Eric, tell us more about what we heard from the state overnight.
Yeah, all we know at this point is that this is a healthcare worker. This would make the third confirmed case of Ebola in the United States. Not a very visual picture here behind me. It's just a calendar. We're trying to piece all this together. Today is obviously the 15th. So we understand this person went in with fever yesterday. It was a low-grade fever. That's when that person went into isolation. We don't have an exact time frame on that. Where we are right now is there's more that we don't know. We know that there's going to be a press conference later this morning at 7 o'clock where they're going to update information. But if you remember what happened last time, police went in and decontamination crews immediately went in overnight into the neighborhood of Nina Pham, started doing decontamination. We would believe that that would be happening right now, so we've reached out to the proper authorities to get that information. As soon as we get it, we'll make its way to us. But as of right now, there is a person in isolation with a preliminary confirmation of Ebola at Texas Presbyterian Hospital. Mark?
All right, Eric, thank you very much. Well, Dallas County Judge Clay Jenkins and Mayor Mike Rawlings are both at Texas Health Presbyterian right now. The
two leaders preparing to release more information later this morning. NBC5's Jeff Smith is also at Texas Presby. And Jeff, what have you been able to find out?
Well, Deborah, I can tell you that we have left several messages with people from the local, state, and even federal health agencies. No one has returned our calls just yet, but I did speak on the phone briefly with a spokeswoman for the city of Dallas who says that within the last 30 minutes, both County Judge Clay Jenkins and City of Dallas Mayor Mike Rawlings were here at the hospital behind me. I'm told that they are all scrambling right now to get more information to learn the latest, and they are planning a 7 a.m. media briefing, not here at the hospital on their property, but at the Commissioner's Court building near downtown Dallas. Now, that problem with that 7 a.m. briefing is that as you are waking up right now and finding out that the second healthcare worker who has tested positive for Ebola, the city and the state are not giving out any information, they say, before that 7 a.m. briefing. On the one hand, that makes sense. They want to make sure that they are all on the same page. They get as much information confirmed as possible before this information is spread around the world. But on the other hand, anyone now who knows a healthcare worker, a doctor or a nurse or a provider at Texas Health Presbyterian is waking up and is now very worried because they're not being told any information about this public health emergency. We don't know the neighborhood where this healthcare worker lived, the role this person played in treating Thomas Eric Duncan, but we know that they're here in isolation. That makes two separate confirmed cases of healthcare workers who treated Thomas Eric Duncan who are now in isolation with Ebola themselves. Again, yesterday, the CDC has admitted several missteps. They said 2020 vision, hindsight is looking back. They wish they did several more things differently, but now it's too late to make those changes until they're moving forward. But for now, we know two separate cases here right now being treated. All we know about this second confirmed case is that this person has a fever, was doing checking their temperature last night, and then immediately was placed in isolation when they arrived in the hospital. Again, we're making a lot of phone calls right now to get more information before this 7 a.m. briefing, and we'll keep you posted. Guys, back to you.
All right, Jeff Smith live there from Dallas for us. So again, just to recap, we found out about this, what you said, about 45 minutes ago.
Yeah, probably about 3:45 this morning.
Right, and there are certainly more questions than answers right now. We're continuing to work to try and get those answers for you as we can, but we will cover this throughout the morning, of course, bring you the latest information as we get it. Meanwhile, today, some of the best health experts in the country are in Dallas working to try and stop Ebola from spreading further.
Right now, at least 114 people being monitored for symptoms, all 114 connected back to Thomas Eric Duncan, the patient with Ebola who died a week ago today, and nurse Nina Pham, who was part of the care team for him. People on this list were in contact with one of these individuals. Among those being watched are, of course, these other healthcare workers at Texas Health Presbyterian, where we are now hearing this morning of a second healthcare worker there at Texas Presby testing positive for Ebola.
Now, a quarantine was put in place for 48 people after Eric Duncan was admitted. There are still 4 days left before doctors can give the all clear in those cases. Only one person and one dog had direct contact with Nina Pham before she was admitted to the hospital on Friday. They will both remain in isolation until October 31st. So far, no one on the monitor list had shown any symptoms from Ebola. Meanwhile, today, local hospitals are working under new treatment guidelines for Ebola. The CDC just issued new protocols because Pham was infected even after following the old set of rules. She wore protective gear and received certification to work as a critical care nurse. Now, nurses and doctors need supervision while putting on and taking off that protective gear. Also, a rapid response team is in place to make sure the protocols are being followed correctly.
I wish we had put a team like this on the ground the day the first patient was diagnosed. That might have prevented this infection.
Now, to Nina Pham and her fight against Ebola, and support is pouring in from all around the world. Yesterday, Pham said she's thankful, even confident, she's getting the best care at Texas Health Presbyterian.
NBC5's Ellen Bryan is live back out at Texas Presbyterian to talk about this part of the story. Ellen, what are you hearing about her this morning?
Doctors this morning are telling us that she's doing better. She's now in good condition, and that's backing up the statement that she released saying that she is thankful for everyone's prayers and well wishes and that she is very happy and blessed to be cared here for by some of the best doctors and nurses in the world. Now, she has been in touch with family and friends. They held a vigil for her last night at TCU to pray for her speedy recovery. She has been able to talk to them using Skype to get to the outside world here to talk to her family and friends. Now, she did receive a plasma transfusion from Dr. Kent Brantley, and they are still monitoring that to see how it is doing. But again, she's in good condition. We've also had a lot of questions about her dog, who was living with her in her apartment. City officials tell us that dog is safe. He's being kept isolated right now, but is being cared for. We'll have more updates as we know them. For now, back to you guys.
Yeah, definitely more updates through the morning. We'll keep Ellen and Jeff there at Texas Presbyterian Hospital. We're also reaching out to the Centers for Disease Control, the State Department of Health, all kinds of resources to bring you new information, and that is a second healthcare worker diagnosed overnight with Ebola. All right.
Now, obviously, this is a story, again, we're going to continue to follow, but there are other things that people are interested in this morning. And as cool as it was yesterday, maybe waking up this morning, I'm wondering, what's it going to be like today?
Let's get back over to the weather expert desk and check in now with Samantha Davies.
Thank you very much, Sam. Of course, we'll continue to follow that breaking news in Dallas, where a healthcare worker is being treated for Ebola, a second healthcare worker. The preliminary tests and the next steps to contain the virus.
Plus, the gift of life, how Ebola survivor Dr. Kent Brantley is helping other patients around the United States. Those stories coming your way on this Wednesday morning. It's 4:40 now.
In case you're just joining us, you need to know we have breaking new developments on the Ebola story. Overnight, Dallas confirmed a second healthcare worker has been diagnosed with Ebola, so the third overall in Dallas. Preliminary tests came back around midnight. This person had been monitoring themselves for fever. The information is on the way to the CDC for confirmation. Here's what we know right now. This person is an employee at Texas Health Presbyterian Hospital. Now, that worker was among the team that cared for Thomas Eric Duncan, the first Ebola patient in Dallas. So far, the health department will not release the name of this person. We do know the worker went into immediate isolation. As of right now, a press conference is scheduled for 7 o'clock this morning.
Dallas County has spent $1 million fighting Ebola so far, and the cost is going up. That $1 million figure accounts just for the response away from the hospital. Dallas County paid to house contacts in quarantine, clean up, and also decontaminate sites. The money also includes costs for security and overtime in the health department.
invoices that I requested. We're way north of $1 million. And I know folks say, well, at the end of the day, money, well, it's got to come from somewhere.
The director of Dallas County Health and Human Services says he'll make a budget request soon to deal with the ongoing Ebola threat.
Well, around the World Health Organization expects the Ebola outbreak to skyrocket. According to the World Health Organization, new cases of Ebola could reach 10,000 a week by December. Now, at last check, the organization reported nearly 9,000 Ebola cases. Half of those have been deadly. More American troops are on their way to West Africa to battle Ebola. After training at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, these soldiers will work to stop Ebola at its source. They're going to set up warehouses for medical supplies and build facilities that will be needed to treat patients.
All right, 4:44 is the time, and now we go to the fight against ISIS. Americans once opposed to boots on the ground in Iraq and Syria are apparently changing their minds. A new NBC Wall Street Journal poll found 41% of Americans think the United States needs to send troops to defeat the terror group. Despite airstrikes against ISIS, militants are still advancing. The town of Kobani can barely hold off attacks. President Obama says in this situation, there is no easy fix.
This is going to be a long-term campaign. There are not quick fixes involved. We're still at the early stages.
According to this new poll, 55% of Americans who responded think President Obama is handling the ISIS situation poorly. Overnight, hundreds of police officers in Hong Kong clashed with protesters. It's the worst violence seen since demonstrations in Hong Kong started 2 weeks ago. Police in Hong Kong moved in to clear protesters from a tunnel outside government headquarters as they tried to disperse the crowd. You're seeing here these officers facing a backlash. 4 police officers injured, 45 arrested in the clashes. Students are demanding free and open elections to choose Hong Kong's leader.
President Obama will be stepping out on the campaign trail today. He's going to head to Bridgeport, Connecticut for his first campaign event of this election season. The president will attend a rally for Governor Dannel Malloy. Then on Sunday, President Obama will also be campaigning for Democrats running for governor in Maryland and Illinois.
All right, 4:46 is the time. Let's bring in meteorologist Samantha Davies. Nice, cool temperatures out there to start the day, Sam.
Yeah.